He had a bad night. We've talked about it. He understands people's concerns.
You have any want to follow up on any of that? I'm going to say something outrageous. I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president.
President Biden can clearly defeat Donald Trump.
I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin.
Joe Biden is our nominee. He is not leaving this race. He is in this race, and I support him.
Our military is working. I'm following the advice of my commander-in-chief,
Now we have a great president, a great president.
It wasn't about just, anyway, read what his objective is. And anyway.
He wants to stay in the race. His record is excellent.
If all of a sudden I show up at the convention, everybody says, we want somebody else. That's the democratic process. It's not going to happen.
He had a bad night. We've talked about it. He understands people's concerns.
You know, the fighting spirit and pride and courage that served the country so well 4 years ago, helped Joe Biden win, will bring the ticket down this time. He just has to step down because he can't win, and my colleagues need to recognize that.
Joe Biden's our candidate for president. I'm really worried about what's going to happen in November. And I don't want to elect a man who calls veterans who die in service losers.
And the military, you know, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still found ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have any, this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
My name is Kelly Barnett. I am the mother of Staff Sergeant Taylor Hoover.
And my name is Darren Hoover, father to Staff Sergeant Taylor Hoover.
Joe Biden all the way.
Yes.
Joe Biden.
Yes. I think he is our best hope to not make sure Donald Trump do not get into the White House.
Joe Biden is the nominee.
There's been this narrative that since the debate, he has not been out. He's been out. The videos I've seen of people out campaigning has been Joe Biden. On the other hand, I've seen Donald Trump on his riding around in a golf cart disrespecting people.
Paid for by Hilary Clinton.
Take a look at what happened.
Move to spare. Hold. When you're ready. On you. Ready. Move. Up. Move. Go. Up.
Hawkeye's here. Hawkeye's here. Move it to spare.
Spare, get ready. Spare, get ready. We ready?
There's been this narrative that since the debate, he has not been out. He's been out. The videos I've seen of people out campaigning has been Joe Biden. On the other hand, I've seen Donald Trump on his riding around in a golf cart disrespecting people.
Also paid for by Hillary Clinton, with a sigh of disappointment.
Where is he? Where's Zach?
What? Just trying to scare her. Just make it a Halloween spirit.
Not a good idea around the Secret Service. Are you okay?
I'm fine. I just got started.
Hi, welcome to another edition of Between Two Ferns. I'm your host, Zach Galifianakis, and my guest today is Hilary Clinton. Thank you very much, Mrs. Clinton, for being here. Critics have questioned some of your decision-making recently, and by you doing this show, I hope it finally lays that to rest.
Oh, I think it absolutely proves their case, don't you?
Are you excited to be the first girl president?
Well, I mean, being president would be such an extraordinary honor and responsibility. But being the first woman elected president and what that would mean for our country, and particularly what that would mean for, you know, not just little girls, little boys too, that's pretty special.
Mm-hmm. not to take away from the historic significance of you perhaps becoming the first female president, but for a younger generation, you will also become their first white president. And that's pretty neat too. As secretary, how many words per minute could you type? And how does President Obama like his coffee? Like himself? Weak?
You know, Zach, those are really out-of-date questions. You need to get out more.
What happens if you become pregnant? Are we going to be stuck with Tim Kaine for 9 months? How does this work?
I could send you some pamphlets that might help you understand.
First, you supported Obama's Trans-Pacific Partnership deal, and then you were against it. I think that people deserve to know. Are you down with TPP?
I'm not down with TPP.
No, you're supposed to say, yeah, you know me. Like the hip-hop group.
Don't tell me what to say.
Fine, lose. Country goes to shit. Let's talk about Trump.
Let's.
When you see how well it works for Donald Trump, do you ever think to yourself, oh, maybe I should be more racist? When he's elected president and Kid Rock becomes Secretary of State, are you going to move to Canada? Or one of the Arctics?
I would stay in the United States.
And what would you try to...
Try to prevent him from destroying the United States.
So you're going to lead the Civil War?
No, I wouldn't take up arms. I think that might be a little extreme.
Oh, right, because you were saying before we were rolling that you wanted to take away everyone's guns. Very cool. Cool.
I really regret doing this.
Any regrets over losing the Scott Baio vote?
Not a one.
So it wasn't heartbreaking that...
No.
Yeah, but Chachi, I mean, who's going to be next? Max Headroom? I'd love to meet the person who makes your pantsuits.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because for Halloween, I wanted to go as a librarian from outer space.
I think that would be a good look on you.
Have you thought about what you're going to be wearing at the debates?
You know, there's this thing called the double standard, and so I think about, well, what should the first woman nominee at one of our two major parties wear to the debate? And I have no idea, so if you've got suggestions, I'm open to them.
Do you wonder what your opponent might be wearing? I mean, what do you...
I assume you'll wear, you know, that red power tie.
Or maybe like a white power tie.
That's even more appropriate.
When you went to Donald Trump's wedding, did he write his own vows? And did Michelle Obama write Melania's?
I really couldn't see or hear very well, so I'm not quite sure what his vows were, but I'm sure they were great and huge and wonderful.
Like his vows. Chelsea, your daughter, and Ivanka Trump, Trump's daughter, are friends. Does Ivanka ever call Chelsea, you know, to talk about boys that might have crushes on her, like her dad?
I don't think so.
What's going to be the #1 focus of your presidency?
Oh, Zach, it has to be the economy. We need more good jobs with rising incomes. We've got to make the economy work for everybody, not just those at the top.
We need to take a break. We just need to have a word from our sponsor. Okay.
Washington is broken. The truth is, too many politicians are totally controlled by special interests and lobbyists. We're going to make America great again. I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
He approves the message.
Why would you play a commercial for my opponent in the middle of our interview?
He paid me in steaks.
I'd be afraid to eat them if I were you.
It's a good cut of meat. I think it's part of the asshole. Well, this has been a lot of fun, Mrs. Clinton. We should stay in touch. What's the best way to reach you? Email?
Though I wish I were here with better news. The fact is that you and I are sitting here today because this will be your last week of employment. This is not an assessment of your productivity. You gotta try not to take this personally.
Well, I just had a bad night.
Named the growing list of Democrats calling for President Biden to withdraw from the 2024 presidential race amid concerns about his health and mental fitness. Oscar winner George Clooney, who last month co-hosted a major fundraiser for Biden here in L.A., today penning a New York Times op-ed saying that he loves the president, but, quote, the one battle he cannot win is the fight against time. Clooney writing in part, "It is devastating to say it, but the Joe Biden I was with 3 weeks ago at the fundraiser was not the Joe Big Effing Deal Biden of 2010. He wasn't even the Joe Biden of 2020. He was the same man we all witnessed at the debate." The White House is pushing back against Clooney's op-ed today, and so are a number of local Democrats. LA Mayor Karen Bass saying she still supports Biden as the nominee. Supervisor Janice Hahn saying other Democrats should line up and say that they are voting for Biden. Veteran LA Times political writer Seema Mehta and I were at last month's Clooney-Biden fundraisers. We served as the pool reporters inside. Seema joins me now with more on the fallout. Seema, I'm curious on what you saw in the room and what you heard afterwards. Is it line up with what Clooney was saying?
I mean, I think, you and I both were there and we spent some quality time together. First of all, putting President Biden on the stage next to former President Obama are always going to be challenging because Obama is much younger and he is, quite articulate. He's always been good on this stuff. But I think I did hear from people concerns, but I heard them privately. Like, people are now saying things publicly that they said privately back then. Because, after the debate happened, it seemed like, that obviously opened a bit of a floodgate. But there were concerns that he's always been sort of soft-spoken, but there was times when he would sort of, start as a question and answer and then stop and, maybe pause for a bit. So what we saw at the debate was sort of like what we saw at the fundraiser. I feel like the fundraiser was a very friendly audience.
And I had a similar experience. A lot of people, nobody would go on camera saying this, but looked and like, oh, he looked really old and sounded really old. And he had just been on a big international trip. Some people were blaming that. But then the debate took it to another level, and we did report some of that at the time for people that are curious. Okay, so does the Clooney thing matter? And who is George Clooney's audience in this? Is it President Biden? Is it voters? Is it Obama? Who's he talking to with this?
George Clooney, I was actually having this conversation with somebody earlier today. He was like, I don't care what an actor thinks. It's not just that he's an actor. He is a major Democratic fundraiser. I mean, when he held a fundraiser for Obama in 2012, it raised the most money of any Democratic fundraiser at the time. Same in 2016 for Hillary Clinton. And then they broke that record with more than $30 million for Biden a couple weeks ago in LA. So his connections represent Hollywood donors, which are huge Democratic donors. And it also represents, the people that he's connected with, whether it's Jeffrey Katzenberg, who's on, Biden's national campaign committee. There's so many big names that have given a lot of money and a lot of time. And I feel like the fact that Clooney was willing to speak out is a signal that, and Rob Reiner also spoke out, and Ari Emanuel, whose brother is Rahm Emanuel, who is Biden's ambassador to Japan, who was Obama's chief of staff. It seems like there's a growing concern in Hollywood that's becoming increasingly public.
So everybody you just mentioned are all close with Barack Obama, who was on stage that night. He's been pretty quiet since the debate, the day after he expressed support for Biden, but we haven't heard anything from him this week. A lot of Obama people, though, John Favreau, David Axelrod, a lot of people really close to Obama are now speaking out against Biden. What's going on with Barack Obama?
Obama world is very large and it has a lot of people with a lot of different opinions and strong opinions. And obviously David Axelrod, who was there from the beginning, has been very open about his concern. That said, I spoke with somebody who regularly speaks to the president earlier today, who basically said or the former president, before that Obama feels like his role is to be a confidant and a sounding board for Biden. So unless things go south, it doesn't sound like he's going to, start effort to get him to resign. But it sounds like he's obviously paying attention. There's a lot of reporting about how concerned he is about the president's chances of re-election against former President Trump.
And of course, Obama didn't really think Biden could win back in 2016. He helped ensure that Hillary Clinton got the nomination, which Biden has always never forgotten. And that is, something that's part of their past as well.
My work around access to capital has focused on young men of color, black men, knowing that, again, so many entrepreneurs, and it's when people think black men and small businesses, it's not just a barbershop.